Is Ian Garry overrated? And before I get any comments saying how I'm just hating on Ian Garry for his lifestyle choices, understand that I truly believe that Ian Garry is a great fighter. I've gained a lot of respect for him after his fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov, but I see a lot of people picking Ian Machado Gary, not for the right reasons, however, and it's kind of bizarre because the way some people online are trying to portray Ian Garry is just not realistic as to what we've seen over Ian Gary's last few fights. And I'm not going to use any fights before Ian Gary was ranked. I'm primarily only going to be using what Ian Gary has shown us throughout his last three fights against top 10 level opposition. Um, Before we get started, I just want to say that he's not bad, but a lot of people are pointing him out as if he's this elite grappler. And my job today for this video is to prove why that is just not simply the case. We're going to start off with the Jeff Neal fight at UFC 298, Volkanovski versus Topuria. This was a pretty dull fight, and I don't blame Ian Gary for this. But I would be lying to you if I said Ian Machado Gary put on this masterclass against Jeff Neal. Right? Let's see here. Let's see the stats over here. Ian Machado Gary, he kind of outstruck Jeff Neal at rounds 1 and 3. Again, most of the time Gary was on the back foot trying to circle around, which is a smart move against Jeff Neal because Jeff Neal is a serious power puncher. But at the same time, it wasn't this dominant masterclass that a lot of people are trying to point this out to be. And if anything, this kind of lowered my stock on Ian Gary in general because it just showed that Ian Gary, he is going to primarily use his footwork to not necessarily avoid the fight, but just avoid the power shots primarily against these uh, elite level boxers. And at the elite level, I don't think that works because you have to be able to initiate offense. And rarely does Ian Gary initiate any offense. And these are high numbers relative to Ian Gary's standards. Because about to show you the MVP fight, which was horrendous to say the least. Like the MVP fight over here, we have Ian Machado Gary in the red, Michael Venom Page in the blue. Don't get me wrong, Ian Machado Gary won via his grappling. But look at the stats right here. I'm not even going to go over the grappling stats yet. 2 of 6 strikes at round one. Fair enough. It's MVP. MVP does the same thing. Round two, 9 of 21 strikes. And I'm going to be honest. I think that's generous. I don't remember a single strike that Ian Gary landed in round two. Round two, I remember Michael Venom Page. He's doing his Michael Venom Page shit and just like waiting for Ian Gary to leave the opening as MVP blitzes in with a right hand down the pipe. And fair enough for Ian Gary. He took the shot, but I don't remember a single time Ian Gary being able to effectively throw any strikes. And then round three, primarily most of the round was spent in the clinch and on the ground, and there wasn't that much action in a lot of these fights. Like, look at here. People point out Ian Gary to be like this well-rounded grappler who could just ragdoll Carlos Prates. I don't think that's the case. 2 for 5 on takedowns, like in a 15-minute fight. It's not that much output, and 7 minutes of control time. Like people trash MVP's grappling, but it's like if MVP's grappling is as bad as people say it is, then Ian Gary should have got him out. I'm sorry. It's either Ian Gary is not as good as a lot of his fans try to point him out to be, or MVP's grappling is better. I think based on how much shit MVP's been getting for his grappling, I'm gonna say that it's the first option in that Ian Gary, although he's good, he's not this elite level grappler that's gonna ragdoll everybody. And last but not least, I want to point out to the stats from the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight. These were truly atrocious. And don't get me wrong, I do think Shavkat Rakhmonov did kind of make it boring. But at the same time, Ian Gary just let Shavkat Rakhmonov hold him up against the fence. You know what I mean? Like, look at round one, 3 of 4 strikes landed. That doesn't tell me anything. And like, listen, Shavkat landed less, but I specifically remember when they broke off from the clinch, Shavkat blitzed in with a 1-2 down the pipe and rocked Ian Garry. Round two, a little bit more action, but kind of the same as the first round, like 10 strikes in 5 minutes. And again, Shavkat threw less, ironically, but it was Shavkat who actually landed the damaging shots every time they broke off from clinch. Now, round three, all right, you could give it to Ian Garry, but Ian Garry didn't throw anything that was like crazy. He just threw uh, head kicks off the guard or like leg kicks off the back foot. Like, you don't watch Ian Garry in this round and go like, wow, he threw like amazing shit. He just kind of outworked Shavkat Rakhmonov for that round only. And round four, I think that was Shavkat's best round because that's when Shavkat actually started shooting double legs instead of just holding Ian Garry up against the fence and looking to clinch strike. And it kind of showed that Ian Garry doesn't have the best takedown defense. Like, is Carlos Prates gonna shoot a takedown? Probably not. But again, it's another example as to why I don't believe that Ian Garry is this amazing grappler. And now people are going to point out to round five about how Ian Garry almost choked out Shavkat Rakhmonov. First off, you always have to start off with the word almost in that fifth round rear naked choke attempt. And second, Ian Garry has messed that choke up multiple times. Like in the fight with MVP in round one, he does the same bad habit of just lifting his chin high up in the air every time he's going for a rear naked choke instead of using his head to kind of just press upon and his opponent's head to finish this choke. So listen, as much as I do believe that Ian Garry's skills are great, I think he's very much overrated by the Ian Machado Gary fan base. The Ian Machado Gary fan base try to paint him out as this extremely well-rounded fighter who can ragdoll all the strikers and outstrike all the grapplers. When in reality, Ian Garry is a point fighter who barely throws any output. We see here in across 25 minutes, I'm sorry, 42 strikes across 25 minutes. All right, Shavkat threw less, but it's not the greatest look. Again, it's Shavkat, however, so I'm gonna give him the pass. We go to MVP, 19 of 39 strikes. All right, fine. It's MVP. MVP is very tricky to deal with. We're gonna give Ian Garry the pass once more. Then we get to the Jeff Neal fight. 67 of 135 strikes. And now, to be fair to Ian Garry, this is a lot more output than his last two fights, but it's not crazy output. It's barely tapping at Jeff Neal with better shots. And while I do blame Jeff Neal primarily for this fight being boring, I will say that Ian Garry, he doesn't throw anything aggressive. And that's why I break this down for my pick between Ian Garry and Carlos Prates. The reason I said in my prediction video that Carlos Prates is going to beat Ian Machado Gary, I don't trust in Ian Garry's output. Ian Garry primarily fights out the back foot until he can figure something out. If he doesn't figure something out, he's kind of just there, just circling around, throwing kicks at range to keep you at distance. I don't think that works against a guy like Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates is a much better striker than at least Jeff Neal and Shavkat Rakhmonov. And you can argue MVP as well because of output. Like, don't get me wrong, Carlos Prates, he's not this guy that's just gonna go out there and blitz Ian Garry, but he certainly does more than MVP, which is why I think Carlos Prates is gonna have a lot of advantages on the feet. It's purely because Carlos Prates will throw strikes, whereas Ian Garry doesn't really throw aggressive strikes. Again, I'm not saying that Ian Machado Gary can't win this fight. I see a lot of people here are picking him by decision, which is logical. But then I see like 14% of people or 15% of people going for Ian Machado Gary by submission. When has Ian Garry ever completed a submission? He got close to completing a rear naked choke against Michael Venom Page, and he got close to completing a rear naked choke against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, the Shavkat Rakhmonov one was impressive, but a lot of people trash Michael Venom Page's grappling, and Ian Machado Gary could not get the rear naked choke against Michael Venom Page. All I want to say is that okay, I'm picking Carlos Prates because Carlos Prates, he's probably going to rock Ian Gary at some point in the early rounds and put Ian Gary away. But I'm not saying it's ridiculous to say that Ian Gary can't win this fight. I just think it's ridiculous to say that Ian Gary is going to ragdoll Carlos Prates. We've never seen Ian Gary really be able to definitively outclass anybody who's considered elite level in the welterweight division. Like the last time Ian Gary has been able to do so was against Neil Magny, and Neil Magny at this point was kind of washed. And like, listen, Carlos Prates fought him after, but Carlos Prates finished Ian Gary. I'm sorry, Neil Magny in the first round, and I think that's way more impressive than watching Ian Gary just chew up Neil Magny's legs to a 30-24 decision. If Ian Gary were to win this fight, I'm gonna say it's by decision. Let's be honest here. He's gonna probably steal some of the rounds as he's getting outstruck on the feet. I just don't believe in Ian Gary's finishing potential or his aggression for there to be justification for 14.7% by submission and a 5.4% by knockout. All right, that's where I'm going to end this video for today. Let me know in the comments down below if you think Ian Gary is overall overrated or underrated. But other than that, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.